So is that part of your daily routine? Because I know that you've got this pretty awesome routine, right? That you've set up for yourself to keep yourself in tip top.
Yeah. This is something, the morning routine I have been working on for a while. And, because everybody is different and you have to have something that suits you, and not just suits you, that helps you on every level. So my morning routine is when I get up, I listen to a little bit of Six music because I want a little bit of new music. That's my sort of new music time. I listen to Chris Hawkins, and then I put on my old pants from yesterday, which are still on the floor, and I go out into the garden in my pants, come hell or high water, come wind or rain or whatever. I'm out in my little garden and there's a chair there, and I sit down on that chair and I look at this beautiful kind of wild garden, and I do my Wim Hof breathing and my So I do my breathing. And on a day like today, it was 9 degrees today, and it was pouring with rain, and it was windy. So you get a real wind chill factor. And what I'm after is the Shinrin Yoku thing that you mentioned, the connection with nature, the awe of nature, just at that time when the birds are starting to fly around and get into it. My garden robin comes and says hello to me every morning, and you start to notice patterns in nature. And all of these things are wonderful and serve to boost your mental health. Mine anyway. So then I do my Wim Hof breathing. So 3 rounds of 40 breaths I do. But rather than be obsessed with the amount of time that I'm not breathing for, and I've reached 3 minutes and 40 seconds with that. And Aaron, if you knew me,
wow,
yeah, but well, here's the thing. It's not really a breath hold technically, because you've let all your breath go. So it's 3 minutes and 40 seconds of not breathing, because you're already oxygenized. You let go on the last breath, and then you don't breathe in. So you're not holding on to breath. I'm just being pernickety here, but effectively it is, like holding your breath, but there's no breath.
You sort of 2.5 hours roughly if you did 40 breaths at that, with that level of hold.
So I used to be obsessed with the amount of time that I wasn't breathing for. And once I got to 340 on my terrible lungs, not big at all, lifetime of smoking and spliffs and all that sort of stuff, which I don't do anymore. But that takes its toll. My lungs are not elastic, and I've had pneumonia twice in my life. So these are bad lungs. And I got to 340. So that's an inspiration for anyone. If I can get to 340, Jesus, you can get to 5. So I now roll out a yoga mat. Again, come hell or high water, I roll out this yoga mat and I do exercises while I'm not breathing. So I do my 40 breaths, and then I'll do sit-ups, like stomach curls, to work the top of my abdominal area. And then on the next round, I do leg raises to work the bottom of my abdominal area. And then on the third one, I'll do a 2-minute plank. I'll do one plank. I'll do about a minute with nothing in my lungs, and then I'll breathe, and then I'll just do some kind of yogic breathing for the other minutes. I'll do about 2 to 2.5 minutes. And what I'm doing here is, it's really specific to me. I'm 6'1.5", and I've had lots of back issues. Just, the leverage issue, and always lower back. And I have this absolute genius of a back guy. If you or anyone listening to this has any shit happening with their back, get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with this genius in Harley Street who has been looking after me for the last 24 years. And he's amazing. So he taught me these exercises so that I don't have to see him. Unlike all chiropractors who want you to come and see them next week or next month. He's just like, just come and see me, once a year, man, for a checkup. He's American. Forgive the accent. So I do my exercises that are very specific to me to get my core working for me and supporting my back. And since I've done this, I just dug a pond, man. I dug a 9 foot by 9 foot pond, and it goes like 3.5 feet deep. There's no way I could have done that, Aaron, in the old days. No way. I would have been ravaged. And, touch wood, I've made it and I've done it. And it's like, it's dug. And it's all, Dr. Anthony Jakubowski, if you're listening, thank you, man.
Jakubowski, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
So you're out there in your pants from yesterday in the English weather, on the yoga mat in the rain, doing these exercises for what does it take? Like 15 minutes, half?
Yeah, about 15 minutes. And here's the thing. The key time was like before the clocks went back and it was dark, almost pitch dark when I went out there. And the dawn was just starting to happen. And the old me would have been really depressed about that. But the new me is like, I see it as an opportunity, and I'm out there just thinking, oh my God, dawn is actually happening as I'm doing this. This is beautiful. And it's raining. Like I'm feeling, when I do that plank, I can feel every drop of rain on my body. And there's nothing more in the moment than that. And when do you feel the rain on your body? Because we're wearing clothes. And when we strip down to our swimming costumes, it's in Thailand or Barbados or wherever it is you go. It never rains.
Feeling English rain on me, no, for sure.
So
putting on 3 jackets,
mate, it's amazing. It really is a beautiful thing, feeling drops of rain on you, and also stimulating the largest organ in your body. I mean, anyone who does Wim Hof knows that you're after that cold water exposure. And in the winter, in the autumn and the winter and the early part of spring, you're getting that when it's raining, or you're getting that just being outside. Like, when it's going to drop down to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 degrees or whatever, I'm still going to be out there. And this 15 minutes, it really boosts me. It really makes me feel great. And I come in, even if it's rainy and dark and horrible and cold, and I feel so much better.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, it's food. It's food for the body. It's food for the nervous system, isn't it? It's like, that's what you're feeding yourself, a bit of reality rather than a bit of processed coffee and maybe some news, which potentially isn't that positive. And then how are you going to progress from that? Whereas I think once you've had a bit of, rain and darkness, you're ready for anything after that, right? That's
absolutely. And so what are you doing in the morning then?
Well, just generally the coffee and bad news, to be honest. I've been making my changes myself. So I've transitioned to cacao. So I have ceremonial grade cacao rather than a coffee first thing, which is great. So it's quite strong. I have about 30 or 40 grams of it. I try and get outside in my bare feet, or I try and get some sort of nature into my eyes. I'm looking at the trees that I have in the garden. I'm lucky to be near a park, so I really focus in on that and try and like you said, stimulate parasympathetic nervous system, give myself that moment to connect into the day, not the imagined news, cultural day, whatever that day is, which is I think challenging, when you're looking at the news. I still do read the news every now and again, but the cacao is great. So I have that, and I try and I think I'll probably start sort of planking in the rain now after hearing that, because I've been doing some core strength exercises to try and help the back. So there are these 7 exercises that are really good for those lower discs, that help move, lots of nutrition into them. Exactly what you're talking about, basically, those type of exercises. So
man, well, that's my gift to you, those exercises. And so when you're doing the leg raises, put the palms of your hands underneath your buttocks. So one hand underneath each buttock. That supports your back while you're doing it, so that the exercise just goes to your lower abdominals. And also, I don't know whether you knew this, Aaron, but the majority of vitamin D doesn't come in through your eyes. It comes in through your stomach.
Right.
So going into your garden in your pants will give you I don't know whether there's research into this, but I would bet a kidney at the very least that I would be getting more vitamin D into my system than somebody who wasn't going into the garden in their pants that lived right next door to me.
Yeah, I mean,
In other words, everybody at
bioavailability,
least.
right? That's the buzzword, because obviously you can take as many supplements as you want, you can eat as much healthy stuff as you want, but it's this concept called bioavailability, which is how much is actually becoming available, how much are you digesting of the stuff you're taking in. And that's where you have all these different schools of thought about vitamins that are lab made versus vitamins, for instance, in the cacao, you have these huge amounts of magnesium. And yeah, so there's a big argument that talks about the bioavailability, and obviously moving the viscera of all the organs in your stomach, moving them around and getting them bouncing up and down with those type of exercises is just going to increase the way that you can digest things effectively, basically, which is why
Yes.
exercise and these things are always important as part of being the best you, really, is to try and invest some time in them and tailor them. And that doesn't mean sort of lifting the heaviest weights, because I stopped lifting any weights at the gym. I barely touch any of that stuff anymore, but yeah, I think exercise is definitely one of the routines that is going to help anyone who's looking
Yes,
at their health.
and you've touched on something really important here, and actually you've inspired me, because part of my routine, my morning routine, it stretches into the vitamin part and the diet part. So I make a Bircher smoothie. I make a Bircher muesli. Sorry,
Usually, like an overnight.
overnight. Yeah.
Right.
So I do an overnight soak, and I'm going to add cacao to that. So I have organic cacao always in my kitchen. I am a huge fan of the stuff, and I know that it's full of magnesium and it's got great antioxidants. So again, I tailor this Bircher to me. And I put it up on my Instagram, and I said to people, you tailor it for you. So I have, well, not cacao, but I have my antioxidant comes from, have you ever heard of a thing called, oh God damn it. It's, I forget the Indian name for it, but it's dried gooseberry powder, amla. It's called amla.
Interesting.
Right. So organic dried gooseberry powder. It's called amla. You can get it on Amazon. Buy a kilo of it. So it if you look at the chart of antioxidants, right, and you look at a normal breakfast, and it goes, this high, right, and then you look at blueberries, which we all know are high in antioxidants, right. Now that goes, like 10 times more. So amla goes through the roof and into the sky above your house on that chart.
Wow.
It's the second most amount of antioxidants that you can get that has been tested, that I know of. And this is by Dr. Michael Greger, who runs nutritionfacts.org, who wrote How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. He's one of my heroes. So he looked at the study for this. So amla powder, in terms of its antioxidant level, you could have a half a teaspoon of that, and that's like more than twice of your antioxidant needs for that whole week.
Amazing.
And so if you're having that every day, so I put that into my oats, lots of oats, because again, this is personal to me. I had cholesterol issues, really, like catastrophic cholesterol issues, and I took them from the number might not mean anything to you, but 7, which is in the red, from 7, and I'm now at 1.8. Which is like so far in the green.
Congrats.
And it's to do with the Wim Hof method that I've been doing, and to do with my diet. And a lot of it is to do with this Bircher, lots of oats, amla powder. You mentioned ceremonial grade cacao. I put ceremonial grade matcha tea, which has just the tea powder, because that has I think similar to cacao in terms of its antioxidant quality. The magnesium that you're getting from your cacao, I'm getting from seeds. I'm putting chia seeds in there, lots of organic, like cold milled chia seeds and flax seeds. And the chia seeds, and I'm putting blueberries, I'm putting blackberries, that kind of thing. And that all plays into the fact that my dad died of bowel cancer and bladder cancer. Thank you, man. And so I'm bracing myself for the future, because I know that that's in my genetics, and he didn't look after himself at all in that way. So I'm and I know that those things really, and broccoli sprouts, things like that, they really
Prebiotics,
help you.
probiotics, right? Yeah.
Yes, I take this amazing. So in with this this bircher that I make, I've got this stuff called it's biofermented turmeric. It's called Turmeric Vitality. You might have heard of it. It's an Aussie thing.
Yeah,
it's got 8 different biocultures in there. It's got some tropical fruit. It's got biofermented turmeric. So it gets that turmeric into your system. If you just scoff a load of powder, I mean, it's horrible, but that's not going to, I think it needs a buffer to get into your system.
Yeah, the fermentation,
yes, there you go.
Break it down, so that helps with the absorption process.
There you go. So you know your stuff with, do you have like a background in nutrition, or is this like
I'm back in college. I've gone back to university. I'm doing my MA in osteopathy, so I've been studying nutrition and naturopathy and spinal health. So,
well, that's really encouraging, Aaron.
What we've been covering, yeah.
That's really cool. But here's the thing I'm interested in is what you're studying. Is that part of the syllabus, or is that you being intelligent about it? Because I know that GPs,
some of it's on the syllabus, yeah. Some of it's on the syllabus.
That's encouraging.
Some of it is like a personal journey, isn't it, towards our health, right? I think what doing a medical course helps you understand is how to sort of read and digest information and find out information. So there are great resources online. I don't know if you've heard of PubMed. It's published medical journals, so you can search all of these medical journals and you can check out recent findings, and sort of even now when I'm talking to you, I can sort of search Indian gooseberries on PubMed and come up with the most recent surveys done on the antioxidants and bioavailability. So it shows you how to refine the knowledge and how to sort of call out these because there's a lot of information out there and people are always trying to help. I think people want to, and what works for one person, isn't going to work for another. But there's often the commercialization. People may overstate things, and it's really good to be able to know what's happening, and things change. It's
man.
People find out that things change.
Yes, and that's why I love Dr. Michael Greger, bless him, so much, because he gives away so that he can maintain honesty and integrity. He gives away all the money, every single dollar from his books, from his talks, anything to do with nutritionfacts.org, he gives it away to charity. It all goes. And he's had 3 number 1 bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers, and he gives it all away just so that he can maintain. So there's no commercialization. There's none of that. You can basically, he's going, trust me, because I'm not making any money out of this shit. This is all for real, Yeah,
and on PubMed it says that there's a conflict of interest statement. So you'll read a whole article on the amazing supplement, and then at the bottom it will say sponsored by the amazing supplement. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is interesting to see how the commercial world interacts with people's wellness and these fads that people go through. We've had that fad of don't eat any fat, and then fat's really good for you, and don't eat any meat, and meat's good for you.
It's not.
Well, it depends. There can be benefits to eating it. I was a vegan for some of my life, and I identify in some ways as a vegan. But as I study nutrition, I realized that it's probably healthy for me, sort of once or twice a month, sort of very consciously to eat small amounts of meat.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I don't advocate a vegan diet. I think that and this is again based on all the research that I've seen and have been shared, that the optimal diet for a human being is to have meat once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that
and then you got
research on the blue zones, right? These zones around the world where people sort of regularly live to 100 plus.
Yeah.
And one of the things is they see that in these spaces, people tend to only have about sort of 1 pack of playing cards, that size, every week. Is kind of the maximum amount of meat that people.
Yeah, you eat meat it's like the old school way of eating meat. You eat it as a treat. So I worked out that I'm 97% plants. That's what it says on my Instagram, and I fly that like a flag. And that's it. I think that's the optimal diet, and I really look forward to it. Like I used to eat meat all the time, and I used to eat so much rubbish, and now, because I know I'm not eating it, I'm hardly ever eating it. When I eat it, I make sure that it is as sustainable as meat can be.
Yeah.
And I want to know the provenance of it. I want to know that it's organic. I want to know that it's, part of the solution or certainly not part of the problem so much.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a big problem with beef and I hardly ever eat it. But on the very rare occasion that I do, I get it from down the road from the Sussex Wagyu guys at Trenchmore Farm. They've got these Wagyu cattle. They feed them with the mulch of the apples of the cider that they make. And it seems to be kind of circular more. And they've got chickens with them and they sell eggs and all the chickens are rooting around with the cows. And it's all very kind of, it just seems, well, it seems as sustainable as a cow can be, which is horrifically unsustainable. And, you know, it takes so many calories to make 1 calorie.
Yeah.
And I think it's the worst culprit in this whole global warming scenario is the beef industry, the cheap beef industry. Beef as a protein to feed poor people. And it's like, I can't remember how many calories, but it's really frightening. It's in 3 figures of calories to make 1 calorie. Definitely
unsustainable. And so what music are you listening to during, have you got a track on? Is this when you're listening to 6 music and getting the new stuff in, or are you?
No. So when I'm in the garden, I basically spend about 15, 20 minutes listening to Chris Hawkins and I get a fix there. And then, and it's whatever he's playing, you know, and then I'll cherry pick what he's playing and add them to playlists that I've got on Tidal. I recently moved to Tidal because I think Spotify are the devil incarnate. And then when I go into the garden, I think it's really important, like it is for you, to have bare feet. And in the summer, I would certainly do that. It's important to have it's important to hear the sound of nature and to not have music, to have not have anything man-made. I'm sitting on a man-made chair and my back's on a man-made house, but I'm looking at a garden and all these trees and plants and shrubs and grass. And I'm, like I say, seeing patterns in nature. And I certainly wouldn't be listening to the beautiful sounds. I'm starting to know what the different sounds of the bird calls are, which I could never get in London. I never had a garden, Aaron. Like my whole adult life, I never had a garden. And I'm so into it now. I'm just so into that whole garden thing.
Yeah.
And I'm making a pond. I'm trying to make it as biodiverse as possible, which is why I'm digging a pond. I want there to be breeding ground for frogs and newts and toads. I've dug it to the specific depth that it needs to be for newts and toads, because it needs to be only shallow for frogs. I've done my research. I'm just sanding it at the moment. Well, waiting for the rain to stop so I can finish sanding it, and then I'm going to put the membrane in, and then I'm going to start putting my aquatic vegetables in there and stuff. And I'm just so excited. These things really, really excite me. The garden, it's not one of those kind of regimented gardens. The whole thing comes across like a sort of a wild meadow, that kind of amazing. like a little wild meadow. You've got a garden where you are?
I'm lucky. I've got a garden as well. Yeah. And I like to get in that in the morning as well and get a bit of the bird song and do the old the chats going on with the birds if I can. Sometimes they're up for a chat. Sometimes they really
I talk to the robin. Yeah. To the blackbird.
Robins are chatty. They talk all night sometimes, robins, but they're very territorial. So a lot of what they're doing is saying, this is my spot. Because, it sounds lovely, the bird song. And they're sort of saying, get out, this is my patch. Any other robins who can hear this, get away. So
I've got a plan.
Robins can sing at night.
I've got a plan to train the robin to eat out of my hand. So I've bought mealworms. And I put the mealworms on this. I have at the bottom of my garden, I have a wine barrel that I bought, which I coated the inside with 3 coats of swimming pool paint because it stank of wine, frankly.
Okay, so I need this advice because I've bought a wine barrel as well, and it stinks of wine. I don't know what.
Oh yeah, absolutely stinks. Yeah.
So you've got to coat it. Okay.
Yeah. So what I did, make sure it's completely dry, and then put 3 layers of that lovely blue swimming pool paint on it.
Right.
It's like rubber paint.
And then you do your ice baths in it?
Exactly. That's my ice bath. So while, Russell Brand and Chris Evans and all of those guys have got these like 30,000 quid ice bath things, which are basically a chest freezer that have been made into an ice bath. I bought a barrel of whatever it is, Celtic timber on eBay, and it was a few hundred quid, and that's it. And then I've bought the swimming pool paint, and when I want to have an ice bath, I I just buy some ice from the local shop, and I've put 5 bags of ice in there, more than enough. Doing that once a week, it's like a once a week treat. And I'll get into the sea. Because I'm 20 minutes from the sea here, and so I get into the sea. I get not come hell or high water, because nobody wants to go in when it's really, really wavy and dangerous. But I mean, temperature wise, I'll go in. Me and my girlfriend Lucy will go in there right through the year.
Amazing.
And I look forward to. I don't wear a hat. I don't wear a wetsuit. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm not into that sort of like wild swimming where you put on a wetsuit and then you swim and swim and swim for ages and ages. I'm more about the immersion. I'm about the Wim Hof application of it, which is to stimulate the largest organ in your body, your skin. And to get away from this thing, we've been mollycoddled into living between 19 and 22 degrees. We heat our homes in the winter and we cool them in the summer, and everyone gets colds all the time, because as soon as they get a bit chilly, it's like, oh no, I've got a cold. Like, your body wants extremes of temperature. It's used to that genealogically. And so if you give it that, here's the thing, right? I've been doing the Wim Hof method it'll be 9 years in January. And in that time, I've had any gods that we hold dear as my witness, 2 colds in that time. One was on the only day that I didn't do it, the Wim Hof method. The next day I got a cold. And the other time was last Christmas. I fell out with my sister really stupidly. And the stress of that, as well as I do, that stress can just knock your immune system for 6. So no matter what I was doing and breathing and whatever, my immune system got knocked for 6. I went to see Deacon Blue at the Royal Albert Hall. I was lucky enough to be put in a box. Somebody in that box had a cold or a flu, and I got it off them. So those are the only 2 times that I've had a cold. I haven't had flu in nearly 9 years. COVID is flu, so I haven't had COVID either. I haven't had any form. Like, when you do this, you might get these things, but you would never know, because the immune, you're getting hold of your autonomic nervous system, and it's suppressing all the symptoms. So, one time I remember my son, when he lived with me, got a really bad flu, and my girlfriend everyone got a flu around me. And I just got a little sniffle. I could feel that it was in my body, but all I got was a sniffle. Didn't get a cough, didn't get a temperature, didn't get anything. Just got just a little tiny little sniffle. And I could, live my life completely normally. So, amazing. Dude, if you do the Wim Hof every day, honestly, it's a game changer for your health, for your mental wealth. And also, jet lag is a thing of the past. Hangovers are a thing of the past. I don't drink during the week, and I don't really get hangovers very much, but on the odd time that I tie one on somebody's birthday or as a Christmas party or whatever, and you get that inevitable hangover the next day, you do your breathing and it's like it never happened.
Amazing. And what are the basics? Is it just one breath you're using during the Wim Hof method, or is it
so you've never done it? So okay.
I have, but I'm for the listeners and for the
okay. So let's the easiest way to learn is YouTube tutorials. That Wim will take you through it on a YouTube tutorial, or you can download his app for free, the Iceman app. But I'll teach you right now, right here, easy peasy. He says 30, I go 40. 40 deep breaths all the way in, fast and hard, either through your nose or through your mouth. Wim goes mouth. But if you have read James Nestor's very interesting book or seen his TED talk or his tutorials, James Nestor is the nose breathing guy.
You want to work like a whale. Yeah. Yeah,
man. Or, animals breathe through their nose. Only dogs breathe through their mouth when they're over hot. But, the rest of the time, it's all, nose breathing is really healthy, really good. Compresses it. Moisture. Anyway, so let's concentrate on the task in hand. Okay. Wim Hof method. So 30 to 40 breaths, hard in, and I alternate. I go 5 breaths through my mouth just to get things going, and it's all the way in, and then let it go. So it's hard in and it's soft out. Do not push it out. Mm-hmm. You want to let it go. Just let it go. 1 atmosphere is what Wim says. That's the pressure. It's just minimal. So all the way in. Let it go. All the way in. Let it go. I do 5 of those just to really get, because you're in the morning, your sinuses are a bit like, closed. So 5 big breaths through your mouth will open them up. And then I alternate to get to my 40 breaths. So breath number 6 is through the nose and then let it go. Breath number 7, through the mouth, let it go. 8, through the nose. And I do that 40 times. And it only takes a couple of minutes to do that. And then on the last one, you just take a really big one in and then you let it go totally. And then you don't breathe in.
And this is your 3 minutes 40.
So yeah, that was, I don't do that anymore. I don't time it anymore, but I certainly can't get to that. I think there's a golden... It was
natural to hold it at that point because your body's so packed with oxygen.
You are oxygenized to almost a DNA level. You're oxygenized. You've got your mitochondria within your cells, the power units of your cells holding on to oxygen. You don't need your lungs to breathe. Your cells are, you're happily breathing.
Sponge at this point.
Yeah. Basically, you are over oxygenizing and you are storing it. And you at that point, you don't need your lungs to breathe. So you don't breathe in. And the very first time that you do it, you might go absolutely fine, but you might get that. And I certainly did that slight panic of you've breathed in for your whole life. Just like your brain just goes, what the fuck's going on, man? You're not breathing in. Breathe in! And you have to sort of, the closest thing that I can describe in similar in feeling is, I don't know, have you ever gone scuba diving?
Yeah.
Very first time you hit the floor and you had the belt on, did you have any just tiny little wave of panic even when you hit the bottom and then you just thought...
The opposite thing. When I was doing my refresher course, I was at the bottom of the swimming pool. I was like, man, this is great. I haven't done this in ages. I'm in. And then everyone was pointing at me. I was like, what's going on? And I didn't even have the thing in. I wasn't breathing. My head was so, I'd forgotten to breathe. So I had it the other way, but that can happen.
You're so chill that you forgot to. Yeah. So and lots of people, I know this from talking to like diving instructors, and lots of people have this panic when they hit the bottom for the first time. And it's just like, this is not natural. Your brain's going, this is not natural. Like, panic. And then they just go, I can't do this. I've got to go up. Like I had just a little wave of, heart fluttery kind of, what's it called? Solar plexus-y kind of stress. Yeah. That horrible anxiety. And then I just, once I kind of chilled into it after a few seconds, I was like, no, this is the coolest thing I've ever done, I think. And I really, really, really loved it. But it's that, you might get that very first time that you do it, that kind of initial slight panic that you should be breathing in. You don't need to. You are super oxygenized. You don't need to breathe. Trust me. And the first time that you do it, you will not breathe for more than a minute. I guarantee it. If you've done it right, you'll go to 1.5 minutes, maybe 1:40 on your first time, maybe more. I did it with a group of people in the summer and everybody got over a minute. First one that capitulated and breathed in was about 1:10. Most were around 1:30, 1:40. And somebody went for 2.5 minutes. She'd never done it before. It was just amazing. First time. So that's one. So you don't breathe in, right? You've done 40 breaths, chain breaths. You've hyperoxygenized. You've let the last one go. You don't breathe in. You can then just totally relax, meditate. That's great. Or like me, like I do now, you can do exercise and you can do superhuman things when you are hyper-oxygenized like that. Word to the wise, and I know this from experience, don't overdo it because you can like I was like doing 70 push-ups and I could only do 1 push-up before I started doing this. And I was doing like 70 of them and I really hurt my elbow muscle because I just got too into it. So, don't get too into it. Ease into stuff. So when it comes time to breathe in and you've not breathed in for a little while, then you take a big breath in, hold it for 10 seconds, and then let it go. So you've done your 40 breaths, you've let the last one go, you've not breathed for about a minute and a half. You then, whenever you feel like you want to breathe in, take that big breath in, hold it for 10 seconds, and then let it go. That's one round of breathing. So I do 3 of those every day. I think he recommends that you do 3.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. That's the Wim Hof method right there. It's not so much to do with the cold showers. It's much more to do with the breathing. And it's nothing new. This is a yogic technique that's been practiced for 6,000 years, right?
Yeah. Because this is the breathing that lets you deal with that intense cold water without having the physiological response that can lead to shock, basically, of the system. It preps you.
Yes, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. What's happening is you're instigating your sort of caveman response, to stuff, your fight or flight. And you're certainly, and they've tested this now, rigorously and vigorously and robustly, you are reducing the efficiency of your pain receptors down to 15 or 20% of their normal sensitivity, which explains, of course, why for many, many thousands of years, what do they say to a woman going through the most painful thing you can go through, which is giving birth to a child? Breathe. They know that breathing helps to dilate and it takes the pain, or it makes the pain less. If you hyperventilate, you reduce your pain receptors like massively. So you're ready for that cold. And so then after all of that, I'll go in the shower and I'll have a cold shower.
I do the cold shower as well. That's one of the things that I've got into and I do every day. You can really feel when the temperature's dropping. I do it hot first, and then I chuck it on as cold as it can go. And
how long are you doing it?
Well, I try and get it up to 3 minutes, but you can do contrast bathing. This is all part of naturopathy, which is way out of favor. But around the turn of the last century, it was all the rage. They used to have spas, and in Europe, in sort of Germany and that continent, they still have more of a tradition of it. So contrast bathing. So obviously you can do just cold, but this thing of contrast, the way that it activates the skin, the way that it activates some of the fluid systems and fluid dynamics. So I'll do super cold, as cold as it will go, for about maybe a minute, and then when I feel it sort of tingling, I'll chuck it on as hot as it can go, and then I'll try and do that about 3 times, or just get out of it for a second, about 10 seconds, let the body get normal, because your body obviously gets resistant to things, whether it's abuse, drugs, cold showers. Well, you'd be surprised how quick you can get used to really bad things. So it's good to keep reference points. So that kind of it's called contrast bathing. And
yes, that's great, and
that can help turn it up. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen more than one body of research into Finnish sauna, and that's the thing, right? Like we call it sauna, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's
your pronunciation sounded good though. That was
just in case Valtteri Bottas is listening. So yeah, that whole contrast thing, that's what sauna is all about. It's, ultra hot, and then you run along a jetty into a hole in the ice and then jump into the ice. Like, oh man, I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do that. I've been to a few of those like posh hotels that I love the steam room more than the sauna actually. And I go in the steam room, get really super hot. I love what the steam does to my lungs. Then I go, then they'll sometimes have an ice room, or they'll have this indentation in the place, in the spa where, you've got snow in there. You've got a big pile of snow, ice and snow. I love that. Absolutely love that. That's exactly what you're talking about. And again, you're stimulating the largest organ in your body, which is so unstimulated, generally speaking. You're doing it, I'm doing it, but people generally are not doing it. And I think it's one of the many reasons why
it's an easy way to improve your wellness, right? And it's pretty much free. and the side effects are feeling a bit cold. But it's not a drug. It's not something that's toxic. It's just challenging, and it has that benefit of stress resilience as well. Because once you face that cold in the morning, you face that cold shower. I think mentally it gives you that fortitude to face other stresses and challenges.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pick you up on that, Aaron, because you said it's not a drug, but actually a biochemist would say it is a drug. And you know what I'm going to say here, because it's dopamine, right? And norepinephrine and all of these things. So, when you do that cold shower.
So it's
that's it.
Triggering your own supply.
Absolutely.
And that combined with the diet
Yes.
will mean that you don't maybe go searching in other sort of nefarious places for dopamine.
Yes.
You're not
yes, absolutely. I mean, I jokingly say this to people, to musician friends and stuff like that when I talk about this, and people like your good self. They say, what's it like? Describe it. And I say, well, it's like doing the breathing and then having a really, really ice cold shower or getting into an ice bath. The way that you feel afterwards, it's like Keith Richards coming round and giving you a line from his personal supply. That's drugs. This is the same drug, because what it's doing is it's giving you a huge spike in dopamine. I think it's 250%, no, 450% or something like that. A spike of dopamine that you're getting from doing this breathing and then having a cold shower or an ice bath or getting into the sea in January. But, there's nothing nefarious about it. It's completely natural. And
it's sustainable.
I started, sorry?
It's sustainable, right? You can keep doing it for a while. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm going to keep doing it until I croak, and it makes me feel so great. And being honest with you, Aaron, I started doing it when I was starting to spiral into a depression. And I was starting to spiral into the second big depression of my life. And the thing is, I nipped it in the bud. I didn't, because as soon as I started doing this, I had some great advice from someone. And they pointed me at the Vice documentary about women that was done about 9-10 years ago. And it just stopped this. It stopped the spiral from happening. Because when you're having that amount of dopamine into your blood, in your brain every single day, every morning, it's really hard to be depressed. Of course you can have bad days. We all have bad days. This is not a sort of panacea that it's going to make you happy for the rest of your life. You'll still have a shit day at work. You still have the stresses and strains that come with having a relationship, be it with your other half or with your family or whatever it is, or with your neighbor. The shit's still going to happen, but this makes you learn to surf when the waves come.
Yes. Keeps you in the flow. You flow with it. You stay above the water.
Yeah.
Well, bob down, but helps you helps you pop the breath in. Yeah, you got to keep breathing. And again, that's one of the things that happens when people start to have depressive symptoms or challenging days, is they tend to physically restrict their breath and start to just do very shallow breathing. And again, that's going to affect physiologically and your dopamine, your availability to fight disease, your mood. So it is a really, really powerful way of working to become your best self and to overcome these challenges that everyone has. So I think it's cool that it's coming into the culture. And where do you see it taking you? You're gonna get into the DJ breath work, DJ sauna club. I can see you on the retreat, Eddy.
Speaking of retreat, I'm really, in all honesty, retreating from DJing. Man, I'm far too old to be going to clubs all around the world and playing records to children who could be kids who could be my grandchildren.
I have a different view. I think you're probably really qualified to do that and skilled at it. But I understand the experience for you. As you go through different seasons of your life, it's not something you're drawn to, Yeah, I made that change as well. I've started, I've been playing gongs now since 2016 and doing sound meditation and yoga studios, and leading, sort of 1 hour traditional relaxation sessions, really, and instead of playing in clubs anymore. And yeah, I still get the odd invite, and I think I might have to do one again in the future, but I find it really challenging to be around people who are really drunk with really loud noise that late at night. But I mean, it is amazing still, and I respect people who do it. It's just personally for me, it's a little bit full on. And I love
festivals
to a quiet room, you know.
Give me a festival.
Perfect.
You know, give me a festival anytime rather than a club. I don't really want to. I mean, if somebody might persuade me one day to go and do a club, but that's not where my head is at now. And I think that there are people much younger and much fitter that can bounce up and down just like I used to, and in a way that's not going to hurt them. But give me a festival, man, like Secret Garden Party or a Car Fest, or, you know, the few that I do. Yeah. I really, really love those festival sets. And I don't do those ones that are like 4 o'clock in the morning anymore. But yeah, I love those, and I'll keep doing those. I'll always play Secret Garden Party. Like I'll probably die behind the decks at Secret Garden Party one day. I'd be really happy if that happened.
Yeah, I think that would be good. The question is, which song? Which track would you be playing?
Which track would it would probably be at the end of a set, and so it would definitely be drum and bass. And while the beats are going, the beats would be going at 174 BPM or thereabouts, and you know my heart rate would be probably heading in that direction, and it might just explode with the exertion and with the joy, and with the obvious, like, it's the one time of the year that in a situation like that at Secret Garden Party, it's the one time that I will say yes to the things that I say no to through the year. So again, I'm not a vegan. I don't advocate that.
So will you?
And I would never be
behind the decks. Are you there with a copy of the Daily Mail being like, this is good?
I don't. You know, I respect people who go, and there's so many of my friends. There's some of my best friends are on a, like, you know, abstemious, no drugs, no drink, all that sort of stuff. And if that's your bag, I completely respect that, and I would never do you down. For me, it's a bit like the meat thing. But meat is once a week or once every 2 weeks. A drug, you know, one, like MDMA for me is like a once or twice a year. And I really look forward to it. And it'll always be in a, like, Secret Garden Party scenario, that kind of thing. And like, it helps. I really look forward to it. And you know, when you think about the medicinal psychotherapy applications of MDMA, it really helps me in that regard to communicate, to open up, to really talk, and I mean, I am a sharer, as you have now discovered. I'm a splurger. I love to talk, and I love to talk about real things, and I love to talk about how people are feeling, and, you know, what's going on. And I'm fearless with subject matter. But, you know, love it or hate it, or whether it's legal or illegal aside, it is phenomenal for opening people up.
It is one of the substances that's been being tested, right? In these tests. Right, we've got ketamine, MDMA, and the psychedelics, cannabis.
Yes, absolutely. This is a fascinating can of worms that we're opening up now. You know, ketamine. They've all been rigorously tested now, and I looked at the last. If we're talking about just MDMA, because this is a huge iceberg here, and if you just look at the last robust research that was done into that and PTSD for mostly ex-military guys, over 90% had it was 92% had a positive impact from being given a dose or doses and then having a guided psychotherapy session with someone. So it's a very controlled scenario.
And
it's
and
not
guiding is important. Like, it's not,
absolutely. This is not just dropping a pill and going to a rave. This is a very serious thing.
Which some people may have found that an amazing guide. I'm sure you guided many individuals with your DJ sets at times.
Well, Yes, I'm going to say hopefully. Well, yes, from the feedback that I've had, that has definitely happened. But here's
in
the
medicinal context, right?
Here's the well. Okay, let's just rein it back to the serious one. This is research done into PTSD and MD with a guided MDMA thing. 76% on the last trial. 76% no longer diagnosable as having PTSD, right?
Yeah.
No longer diagnosable. That's absolutely astonishing. And the over-the-counter medicines that they were prescribing, that the Pfizer's and the Glaxos and all of those drug companies are making millions or billions from, are having almost no effect. No. I mean, it was negligible, those kind of things. And then you've got this thing that is illegal, that is, well, I say illegal, but America are ahead of the curve, and they're prescribing it. They're prescribing what's it called? You mentioned it, ketamine.
Ketamine, which it's now available. I think
that's
Karen
in an inhaler.
Talking about taking that as getting over her cancellation.
What we've touched on is the fascinating application of these in a mental health context.
Yeah, and
it is absolutely riveting. What is going on. The results from the research that's coming back into not just the guided things, which are off the dock positive, but for microdosing as well. The microdosing of, psilocybin, LSD, the things that we've been talking about. I've not seen it for peyote. I've not seen it for mescaline, but I'd be very interested to see that.
I think it's less readily available, but there does seem to be that uniform information back from the study is showing that these sort of larger experiences with guides, maybe once every 6 months, combined with microdosing, seems to have the most positive effects for the long term on people who are using it for mental health, like you said, veterans who are really suffering. So it's very obvious when their quality of life's improved.
Yeah, and of course, in years to come, people will look back and go, why were we calling it mental health and physical health? It's just health. The two are linked. We know that when our mental health spirals, our physical health goes. When our physical health spirals, our mental health goes. They are so inextricably linked. And there's a fascinating conversation that needs to be had at a level much higher than us about plants as medicine, not just for mental health, as we've been talking about, but for physical health. We've got millions of people all around the world getting cancer, and most of them doing chemotherapy, which, according to the last research that I saw, had an 11% success rate in America. And companies are making billions out of us having cancer. And yet, I know, and I bet you know, that a lot of cancer, not all of them, but a lot, can be reversed or managed or completely eradicated by changing your diet and by doing things like, taking a cannabis oil tincture or a cannabis tincture or a cannabis oil. I have had case study after case study of friends, colleagues, people that I know, people that I love, fathers, uncles of people that I know, people that I love, that have been told that they've got 3 months to live by a top oncologist at the Royal Marsden Hospital or whatever. And then years later, here they are, and they didn't have chemo, they didn't have radio. All they did was change their diet to have no chemicals and to have a very, very small amount of meat. Have this cannabinoid, to have an activated cannabinoid tincture or an oil made of activated cannabis. And when I say activated, it's about 100 different cannabinoids. So a tincture is, imagine a cup of tea is herbs plus hot water plus 5 minutes equals cup of tea. Tincture is herbs, in this case, cannabis, activated, so heated within a window of temperature, much like
right?
like you're tempering chocolate. You've got to hit that window in order to activate all
THCA into THC.
Yeah, you're activating all of the different cannabinoids to make it as medically efficient as it can be. So herbs plus alcohol, really good alcohol, medical grade alcohol, for a week rather than your 5-minute cup of tea. You're just steeping herbs, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a tincture. She took that tincture and nothing else. Didn't have chemo because they refused to give it to her because she was too weak. Didn't have radio, obviously. She's now, 5-6 years cancer free. It just they took her ovaries out, but the lung cancer they couldn't do anything about. She reversed her lung cancer. She went vegetarian completely, no meat at all, and she took this basically medical cannabis. And her last cancer reading was below normal. Now that's happened again and again and again, like 20 different times. Like people coming to me, and I'm just hooking them up with somebody I know does it. And it's such a fascinating area. It's like it's a brave new world, but of course, because eventually it's going to happen. Like, it's happening. Medical cannabis is happening in lots of different places, and even places as regressive and kind of religious and repressive as Thailand are starting to get it now.
And Thailand have green-lighted psychedelics for medicinal research because they see the potential economic benefits and cultural benefits.
They're seeing the whole picture. And I mean, frankly, I don't want to get into a political rant, but like it's getting embarrassing. If somewhere like Thailand can get it before the UK does, somewhere as allegedly forward-thinking as the United Kingdom.
Well, we should be scientifically based and be working from a scientific basis. That's what the UK prides itself on, and I feel that there's an overwhelming amount of scientific evidence that shows that it has potential benefits. I understand that it can be challenging for some individuals and that there can be triggers for psychosis and there can be misuse, but overwhelming scientific basis that these medicinal plants, including psychedelics, cannabis, can be very beneficial for people who are suffering. And
Aaron, it was a delight.
Instagram, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. Yeah, honestly,
a joy to talk to you. And let's carry on this conversation, man. I'd like to, if you're gonna get out in your garden in your pants every day.
Yeah. I'll find you on the interdimensional plane when I get to sort of breath 30. I'll send you some love and good luck.
Yeah, man, always
Robin to do it.
Oh, that will always be appreciated. But I'd like to know how it goes for you.
Yeah, I will. I'll stay in touch. Cool. I'll let you know.
All right.
Thanks again, Eddie.
Big love.